The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm grinning because we have the good doctor back with us today. This is Autism Live. I am Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Warner Center, Tower 1 of the Warner Center here in Woodland Hills. This is the new home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, their headquarters, and it is also the new home for Autism Live. And as you know, it's Wednesday. Wednesday is my favorite day of the week. Why? Because we start our show with Ask Dr. Doreen, and Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is back with us today after a short period of time away from us. I know you guys are all very excited and been waiting for this. She's going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes to answer your questions live on the air. So before we do that, I just want to go through, because this entire show is meant to be interactive, I want to go through some of the different ways that you can be contacting us, some of the different ways that you can be participating in the show. Kelby's going to show you those while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So much to do on that page, so little time, right? But please sign up for our email list. That gets you the free monthly newsletter, and the weekly viewer guide, which gives you a heads up about who's going to be on the show. And there have been so many things happening. Even tomorrow, there's a great possibility that we might have a really stellar guest live from the ASA conference that's happening in Denver. So you want to stay tuned to that viewer guide, which you can only do if you sign up for the email list. Now, also on that homepage, you can be watching the live show. You can watch the most recently recorded live show. In fact, you can watch the 100 most recently recorded shows from Autism Live on that page. So all you have to do is click on the triangle on the computer screen or the playlist that's up in the upper left-hand corner. Now, to the side of all that is the live feature. That's your opportunity to participate with us in real time. Put your cursor in the box that says your question, start typing and hit enter. There is no login, there's no username, there's no password. It's totally free. You don't have to register with a credit card that's going to be charged in 15 days. It's none of that. It's instant gratification. So please participate. But by the way, on some of the other places where the show you can be watching for free, like on YouTube and iTunes and Stitcher, you also have the ability to comment there, but it's just not as instantaneous. We monitor it here. We did have, like a lot of people yesterday, we had some internet issues. We're keeping our fingers crossed that the gremlins are gone for today, and we want you to participate with us. So you can be sending in your questions for Ask Dr. Doreen right now. Don't forget that in our second hour today, it's Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will be with me to cover some of the latest news. And we have a wonderful guest who's going to be with us talking about a very special conference that happens at the end of September. It's the Love and Autism Conference. And this year at that wonderful conference, they are hosting a wedding. Yes, 2 people on the autism spectrum are going to be married at the conference, and their guest list reads like a who's who in autism. Dr. Stephen Shore is going to be there and participating in the nuptials. Temple Grandin is giving the toast. Michael Tolson, who we had, the savant painter, we had him on last week. He's going to be doing a painting for the couple. Alex Plank is the best man. This is a pretty amazing event. So we have Jenny Palmietto, yes, third try and I'll get it. Palmietto is going to be with us today to talk about that amazing conference in the second hour. But first, it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism. Doreen Grandpichet.
Dr. Grandpichet.
Dr. Doreen Grandpichet.
Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm so excited because Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is back here with us after a short break. Welcome
3 weeks,
back.
I believe.
3 weeks.
Yeah, good morning.
But it looks like you had a really good time.
I did. I had a fabulous time.
You look
Thank
rested
you.
in a way I haven't seen you in a little while.
It
You
won't
look
last.
happy. I know, but thrilled that you had some time off. It's
Thank
important
you.
for all of us to do that.
Yes.
And thrilled that you're back here with us answering some questions from our viewers. We do like to remind everybody at the start of the show that in this format, it would be impossible. You're a true expert in the field of autism. I think that you are the expert in the field of autism,
Thank
having
you so
worked
much, Sharon.
in this field for so many years, and truly you're a visionary in this field. But still, even at that level, no one can give individual specific advice in this format. There
Right.
just isn't enough information that can be had. It would be a disservice to the members of the community
Absolutely.
to propose anything different. But having said that, you help us to sort out, to get down to what the questions are and where to go to get the answers. You enlighten us.
Well, hopefully we can give our viewers a different way of thinking about things.
I always think of this as the master class, like the master class in autism. You know,
Really, I think of it as like a think tank where like we just throw out ideas and stuff.
well, that's
and-
so nice of you to think of it as a think tank, as if the rest of us are bringing something
Oh,
worthwhile.
definitely. Definitely.
Because we're just sitting at your feet.
Thank you so much.
So in any case, I want to jump in with a question that came in from a viewer who is also a card client this morning. We had our ABA service yesterday, earlier than expected. My son is pretty rigid about schedules, so this may have thrown him off. It's hard to tell. While they were playing a game at session, he forgot the rules of the game, got frustrated, another factor that could have led to what seemed to be a meltdown or a tantrum, as the therapist called it. It's difficult to see the difference sometimes because, after all, he's a 10-year-old kid, and sometimes people in general have tantrums. She goes on to say he proceeded to take all the cushions and pillows off the couch, knocked over a bookcase, and removed all of his clothes. He kept saying he hated the couch and then peed on it. The therapist eventually got him to get all of his clothes back on, replace all of the items on the bookshelf, and even got him to clean up the couch. But I was told not to mention the void on the couch to him, as they feel that this may be an attention-seeking behavior. Although I do agree he may have done this to seek attention, I'm a little unsure about disciplining him about this. If it had been his typically developing brother, this behavior would have been addressed. Why shouldn't I address this the same way with my son? We have clinic today, so I'll be taking this up with the supervisor, but I wanted to see what Dr. Doreen thinks. I think this is really typical. I was on a call last night with a group of moms, and I was saying, you know, in that the first couple of years, this whole idea of extinction and what you attend to and what you don't to, it feels backward. It feels like, you know, and I think a lot of us have questions sometimes because we think, oh, well, now if this was my typically developing kid, I would never let that go. We've all been raised in this society of teach them a lesson. You have to talk to them, as if that works. But you know, I'm like her. I want to hear your opinion
Sure.
on this and how we language this in our heads as parents, so that we do what's right.
Of course. And there is a little bit of difference in regards to typically developing kids and what they perceive as reinforcement or punishment. And that's the key to the whole thing. So really the issue is, and with some of our kids, therefore with some of our kids, you can actually talk to them about it or reprimand them the way that you want. The key to this has to do with what is the function of the behavior, as always. So really when a child has, I don't know enough about this scenario, what is necessary is a functional assessment of the situation so that you can kind of determine exactly what the child was trying to accomplish. We all do things out of anger. The question, and sometimes we don't even know what we are trying to accomplish, but there is, if you're able to analyze it properly, there's always some reason you do things. For instance, I might be angry at you, Mom, and I might throw the cushions around, or urinate on the couch because really what I want is to express my anger at you. Otherwise, if I had enough language and enough cognitive ability, perhaps I would be just yelling at you and saying, this is not fair, which is what a lot of kids say. So it could just be an expression of anger, in which case it is appropriate for us to reprimand that behavior perhaps and give the child a different type of outlet for their anger. It could just be that the child doesn't really differentiate between positive and negative attention. They're just doing they've realized, see, this is also, it's reverse conditioning as well. So the child has realized over time that the best way to get attention is to do bad behaviors, because whenever they do sort of bad or challenging behaviors, then everybody attends to them. And then in that case, you must put the whole thing on extinction, because if you do attend to it and if you do address it, then the child has gotten what they wanted. So the whole, how you deal with the behavior has really to do with what was the child's intention? What were they trying to get out of it? And you want to make sure they don't get what they were trying to get out of it. Because if they do get what they intended, then that behavior strengthens, right? And so if you make sure that what they intended doesn't work, then they'll change to a different behavior. It's really that simple.
And is it part of it that our kids who are neurotypical have that ability to speak so that it doesn't get that out of hand that they would have to pee on the couch?
Part of it is that, and part of it is that kids who are neurotypical attend more, it's more meaningful for them to get your praise. So a natural reward for typically developing kids, not all, some, is making the parent happy.
Yeah.
Okay. And for our kids, a lot of times our kids are so sort of involved in their own world and trying to figure out their own world that they lack theory of mind, so they don't even see parents as a separate entity, that they lack that desire to please the parent. They also lack things like embarrassment. There's a lot of very small cultural types of environmental factors that, like a lot of our kids might actually urinate in public. Well, why doesn't a typical child do that? Why don't you and I do that? It's because we are embarrassed and we know the rules of social behavior. So our kids don't have that.
Yeah.
Or why is it that a child might get really good grades and work really hard to accomplish good academic schooling, whereas another child might not? It's only because the sort of the happiness and the pride of the parent means a lot to them versus another child. So we all have different reinforcers, and it's really a matter of identifying the reinforcers and then making those more natural in our environments.
So for this mom at this period, her team has told her, don't have a conversation about it, that they think that it's attention getting.
Right.
They're still, looking at it,
identifying it, yes.
But they've said to the mom, don't. It feels funny to her, but she's chosen to go along with it, but she's having some difficulties.
What should she do?
Yeah.
She should talk with her supervisor at clinic, and she should say, I'm not sure this is attention seeking. I don't know if this is attention seeking. Can we do what's called a functional behavior assessment? Can we do an FBA where all scenarios are kind of revised and looked at and reviewed, and then we all decide together, oh yeah, it sounds like this is the typical type of situation for him. Like, for instance, does he do this type of behavior? I don't even know what happened. Like, a demand may have been placed. He was trying to get out of the demand. So in that case, it would be very important to make sure he doesn't get out of the demand. Was he told something by mom and now he's reacting this way? Would he have reacted the same way if he was told by someone else? There's all these different factors that need to be reviewed in order to identify what is the actual function of the behavior. Yeah. So this is a conversation for your supervisor. In fact, as you were reading this, Shannon, I was thinking to myself, therapists are generally, even if you're a registered behavior technician, you're generally not at the level of sort of experience and I guess education even to really be able to do an FBA. A supervisor, though, who's board certified will easily be able to do an FBA and establish for you what the function of the behavior was. So then based on that, you will have the appropriate action.
And for me, I think, you know, what's important for me is for us as parents to remember this wasn't random.
No, not at all.
was a
No
reason
behavior
why.
is random, right? Everything is always because of something. It's just that it gets very complicated because it's real life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the middle of it and it seems very complicated. But think about how many different things happen. Forget about our kids. Just think about like how many things happen with our spouses or with our work or whatever, and we misinterpret the reason.
Yes.
Or we react to it in a certain way, and something becomes a pattern, let's say with the spouse or with the boss or something like that. We often in life, let's say, react to behavior in a way, to other people's behaviors, in a way that inadvertently increases the behavior or encourages the person. We don't intend it to increase, but it does. And so we have to, you know, this is just one example of that. It's hard to identify the function of behavior when there's so many factors.
And I think what it brings up for me too, we just, for the 4th of July, I was with Jem and it was just going to be the two of us. Dad had to work. So we went to go see fireworks. And this is one of my favorite things. I've shared before on the show that I'm a firework junkie. I absolutely love this. We went to go see the fireworks and I had all these things and food to take for a picnic so we could sit out, have a great spot. Took the little folding chairs. One of our lawn chairs, the trim on it had started to disintegrate from being in the garage. It was just like turning into powder, black powder.
Right.
And Jem was sitting in that chair and he was starting to eat his meal and he got the stuff on his hands. And his level of agitation went up and up and up and he was very unhappy. And I finally got him to say, what is wrong? And he said, I've got this black stuff on my hands. We weren't near a bathroom. I said, well, sit on the blanket. He sat on the blanket and ants started to come everywhere. Right? And he was getting so upset. And finally he stood up and he said, I am really unhappy right now. I want to eat my food and I can't. I have black stuff on my hands. And if I go someplace where the black stuff isn't, there's ants all over me. And I said, oh, okay, what would you like to do? He said, I want to go back to the car and watch the fireworks from the car. And I want to go find a bathroom so that I can wash my hands and eat my meal. And I had a moment and I praised him up and down and I said, that's a good plan. Thank you for telling me what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But I knew for sure if this had happened 5 years ago, that isn't
because
what
he
would have
wouldn't
happened.
be able to, not only would he not be able to express it, he probably wouldn't even be able to problem solve it. I mean,
No.
that was pretty amazing problem solving. You realize that most teenagers, typically developing
I have a
teenagers,
hard time with this. What are you talking
would
about?
not be able to express all of that. I
Yeah.
mean, those are some really amazing things he did there.
But I sat there for a moment and I thought, okay, when he was 7, this would have been a full-on meltdown and I wouldn't have known what the problem was.
Right,
I
right.
would have been completely oblivious and been like, what happened? We were at the fireworks.
Right.
He loves this. What? I would have had no way of knowing that it went from this to the ants to, I would have had no way. And it is a testament to how important it is that our kids have some form of functional communication.
Yes.
And that we work on it so that when those kinds of situations come up that they have a way of communicating, I am unhappy, I am uncomfortable, I don't feel well.
Right,
This
right.
doesn't work for me. Stop what you're doing for a minute.
Absolutely.
That it makes such a difference.
And also, you know, it actually also goes to show how important it is for parents and therapists and teachers and people who work with our kids or deal with our kids to be able to see the world from their perspective and kind of, if they're not able to express themselves, which not only are they often language delayed, but this is a very high level of reasoning for
Yes,
a child. You know, it's
absolutely.
not expected of a young child to be able to say, oh, by the way, the reason I'm frustrated is X, Y, and Z, you know? So we have to be able to predict those things in our kids. And I know with my kids, I know that all 3 of them so well that I know exactly which scenario will irk which one, you know, like in which way will they be upset. But the thing is then to, once you've identified that, to kind of also have clear in your own mind as a parent, let's say, or as a provider or as a caretaker, what is okay to allow because he's frustrated and what's not okay.
Yeah.
So because once, you know, the other side of this, Shannon, is that a lot of times as parents we tend to see things so much from the perspective of our children that we spoil them. We literally let them get away with everything because we feel they're frustrated or irritated. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is see the world from their perspective and then assist them in behaving properly so that they can access all of the regular reinforcers in the world. Assist them to understand when they need to calm themselves down and when things are okay and not okay, but maintain a healthy set of rules.
Absolutely. And I just want to bring that up because that's where we want to get to.
Yes.
Where you are right now, though, a good plan going into clinic today.
Definitely talk to the supervisor, yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back with more Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grandpichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grandpichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. She's answering your questions in real time. Please feel free to be sending in questions on our Facebook, on our live feature at autism-live.com, and you can also tweet, and I will check the Twitter here in just a minute. Okay, the next question that we had, it's just so sweet. It's from an individual who is on the autism spectrum who has written in and said, I just got invited to my very first ever sleepover with 2 of my friends and with their parents. This is the first time I've been away from my mom. I would like your best advice for sleepovers for autism, and thank you. Isn't that just so sweet?
Yeah, that is awesome. Do we have any idea of age?
We don't know age.
Right.
And I know that makes a difference, right?
Right.
But
I mean, it's very hard to give any advice. I don't have any concept of this individual's strengths and issues, concerns, fears, and so on. And so perhaps it would be helpful if you wrote back in and gave us a little bit more information about the things that you're worried about in regards to a sleepover, because you know, there's so many different things I've found over the years with my own children, from one of my kids who's actually probably the most like incredibly silent and quiet and calm, worries that used to worry that if they went on a sleepover, they would snore or something, and other kids would make fun of them. And you know, there's so many things that our kids worry about that are not really real, and they don't need to worry about. But so I don't know what it is that concerns you as an individual going to a sleepover. It's kind of scary sleeping in someone else's house, but remember that the purpose, of course, is just to have fun, be with your friends. It's nothing different than spending the day with them. It's just that you're all going to do late activities and then everybody's going to sleep. So nothing much difference there.
As I was looking at this question, because this came in yesterday, and I was thinking, or maybe the day before yesterday, I was thinking about it and thinking, okay, because Jem hasn't done a sleepover yet, but I would want to say to him, and I don't know whether this is the right thing or not, I would want to say to him, you know, go, have fun, but if a time comes that you want to come home, all you have to do is call me and I will come and get you. But is that good to say?
Well, I mean, of course, that's, every child should know that, right? They should know that this is not forced. But I would say you want to prepare the child so that a time doesn't come. Like, in other words, I would say the time to do a sleepover is when you've dealt with all of the concerns or tried to at least deal with them. It's not in vivo. You know, when we do various psychological techniques, you can do them kind of theoretically, and then you can do them in real life. You can practice this. Obviously, there's still room for failure when it's real life. But nevertheless, if you're able to identify all the different issues, like, you know, are you worried about going to the bathroom at night? Are you worried about snoring? Are you worried about what you're going to eat? Are you worried about how you will interact? Are you worried about what scares you? What do you think? And as parents, often we know our kids and we know what they might fear failing. So identify all of those and practice them and give the child resources, tools. Like, if this should happen, then do this. You know, like if you're overwhelmed, maybe go for a walk outside, or ask if you can go to the backyard and calm down. If you don't like the food, or the food is something, then just here's some extra food you can take with you. You know, like there's a lot of stuff like that. If we can help prepare our children a little bit better, I think they won't have a need, because it's kind of a failure, right? If the child has the need to call you. Of course, it's better than not calling you when they're in trouble. But hopefully you could try to prepare the child so they don't need to call you.
So antecedents, you're talking about antecedents.
Exactly. And there's other things you could do, obviously, is that, you know, if you know your child's going to have a sleepover, like you could, for instance, become very close to the family, explain to them these are the issues, maybe spend time at that house. One of my husband's family members, nieces and nephews, there's so many of them. There's 14 nieces and nephews, and one of the kids had a hard time with sleepovers. But what they did is, you know, that as he became more comfortable with a lot of the siblings, you know, the cousins, then this allowed him to kind of step out and also keep going. So the cousins might be a midway step, I guess. That's a little bit easier. Or you can also practice, just like we used to practice for mock school. You can practice a sleepover at home. You know, set up sleeping bags and just practice all the things that are going to happen. The more predictable the situation is for the child, the less likely they'll fail in any way.
Great advice. Moving on to the next question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Welcome back. What sensory need does jumping and flapping feed? 14-year-old jumps on the trampoline at home, and when excited, he would face a wall and do little jumps and shakes with his hands. When walking outside, he tends to shake his hands, which help to lower his anxiety. If he holds an object, he would skip, jump, and shake the object. Super cute, and we need ideas. Thank you for all your advice, which has propelled us.
That's nice. I don't know, if we knew what sensory needs these kind of proprioceptive types of activities actually fulfill, or why these needs exist. I mean, some kids have needs for texture, some have just proprioceptive stuff like this, like their body in space, different positions. Others hate various movements like rocking, and others love body rocking. I mean, it's so variable. The sensory area is really not yet well understood. Clearly it's there. Thankfully it's now in the diagnostic manual as one of the symptom criteria, I suppose, in the sense that a lot of kids have sensory overregulation or underregulation, so they do have different sensory input than we do. So we don't know enough about why those things occur. In my opinion, some of these things that we call stereotypical repetitive behaviors, I think, are pain-related. Some of them are calming. Like, for instance, we talk about pain-related things. There are kids who will body rock like this or press something on their stomach, and often that might be gastrointestinal pain. We talk about children who generally body rock like this. This motion activates the parasympathetic nervous system and calms you. This is a calming thing. That's why we have rocking chairs for babies.
Right.
So rocking in general has a calming activity in the brain. Other types of things, like this is the hand flapping that I'm imagining you're describing here, we're not quite sure. It could actually have a visual type of satisfying effect, because you do have slight visual, peripheral vision activity when you do this kind of thing. Nevertheless, it's producing some sort of input to the system, like visual system or auditory system. I mean, a lot of kids used to do this kind of stuff and play with sound. It's producing some sort of input that the child finds either activating or calming, right? So they've learned to use these types of things in order to either activate themselves or calm themselves. I think it's, even though we call them self-stimulatory, my general feeling is that the majority of these things are calming. I have found that a lot of our kids do these things to calm themselves, to soothe themselves, including, like, as I said, like activities that will actually calm you, or activities that will help you feel in control, and therefore your anxiety reduces. So there's a variety of those types of things that our kids do. What you can do about them, I would say the only thing that we generally do with those types of things is redirect them to something more appropriate, restrict the duration of time to a time that's private. So a lot of times we might actually allow an individual to kind of go and have alone time and do something quite self-stimulatory, whatever it might be. I mean, if you think about it, some of us actually have a lot of self-stimulatory behaviors, like, people who have walls filled with records or so on and so forth, and they organize. Organizing is a self-stimulatory behavior, So it's okay to let the individual have private time. Like, that has been very effective. Like, even something like hand flapping, we've restricted it to, you can do it in these environments, but not in others. So the person has an outlet. Another way to deal with it is just to transition it to something that involves the same sensory input. As you know, one of our kids who used to do this, and this in particular, is now a really good drummer.
Really good drummer.
Which is a fabulous way to redirect that behavior. Maybe you want to give this child, what are those musical instrument, maracas or something? So that might be a way to replace this behavior. Turn it into something that looks more normal and allows the child to do it without, looking so incredibly out of place.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful advice. We'd love to hear back from you and hear how that goes. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more Ask Dr. Doreen after these messages. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back. I'm busy talking. I told Kelby I was listening, and I was not. I'm thinking. Thinking and listening, I can't do both at the same time. But welcome back. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet for Ask Dr. Doreen. She's answering your questions in real time. Want to move to a question that came in yesterday. Help. We have no services for the summer, and I feel my son slipping away. He's 8. We did ABA for 3.5 years. Regional Center said he was done. I didn't think so, but things have been okay. I can't afford a camp, so he has a lot of downtime this summer, and I'm seeing stims I haven't seen in years. What can I do so I don't lose my son again?
Yeah, so I would definitely get an assessment done. I would not necessarily, okay, so if you think about it, the funding source, no matter who they are, whether it's an insurance company, regional center, or anybody else, is motivated to reduce the amount of money they spend on this because they all have budget cuts and they're all trying to maintain a certain amount of sort of budget and reduce the budget every year. So there's a conflict of interest there. So in their, if you were in their place, I mean, I'm trying to say this very carefully because I would think that if I worked for a regional center and I was constantly told that I need to reduce the budget, then obviously I would probably try to find children who I could take out of the system as soon as possible. This does not necessarily mean that the child is completely done. So it would be important, I think, for you to get an assessment done by someone other than the representative of the regional center, and the regional center would have to pay for that, by the way, so that you can actually identify if your child does need services. So I would go back and get the caseworker from the regional center and say, he's not done. I'm worried. He's had a lot of downtime, and I am seeing self-stimulatory behavior come back that I haven't seen in a long time, and I need help. So they would then, and you need to be very persistent with this because it doesn't sound like your child has a lot of issues, but you probably need to persist as much as possible in order to get some attention and get someone to actually give you some more funding at this point. Other things you can do, for instance, are you can try to get insurance funding, obviously, for maybe more lighter activities like summer camp programs that are specifically for children who are high functioning, have just come off of the spectrum or such. You can certainly get in touch with a provider, and then the provider would assess your child and get the funding from regional center. So these are kind of ways to go about it. But I think if you personally as a parent feel that there's something going wrong, then I would address it. I wouldn't ignore it.
And in the state of California, in all likelihood, you probably do have insurance funding now.
Yes.
So
yes,
you know,
in most states we do now.
yeah. And in the meantime, while they're going through getting the assessment, they could be using skills as well, correct?
Absolutely. Of course, you can go through skills and you can look at some of the much higher level areas of the curriculum. You can look at the Skills Advanced Cognition program, actually, and kind of go there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Question that just came in. We're checking to make sure that the live feature is working, and it is. Question for Dr. Doreen. While ABA services have brought my son many new skills, there is a part of me that feels that his attention span has worsened. Are there any card programs aimed at improving attention span and focus? Please tell me what such a program would look like at the beginning and through its evolution, and thank you.
Yes, of course. So yes, there are, one of our curriculum areas is called executive functions, and there's a whole section under executive functions in our program called attention, and that consists of many different lessons. So an example, there's different types of attention. So ABA should not cause a decrease in attention. It should improve attention abilities. It's possible that it looks like your child is attending less, maybe because they have more to attend to. The more we have to attend to, the harder it is. Like, for instance, right now, I have to attend to the question that's coming in. I have to pull from my general knowledge in order to be able to answer that. I have to kind of attend to the camera as well as to you, as well as to Kelvin back there, if he tells me something. And I also have to, I'm kind of expecting an emergency, so I have to, so this is lots of different types of things that are involved in attention. Now, how do we do that? So we attend to generally the most important thing, you know, that's called saliency. And that means that you're attending to the one that has to take priority over everything else at this moment. And that is, of course, the question and the answer that I'm giving. So all the other stuff that I'm attending to kind of fall in the back. And that is, you know, part of one of the forms of attention. Another form of attention is sustained attention. So am I able to pay attention to this question for long enough to deal with it? A lot of our kids have a hard time with sustaining attention. They get distracted very often. Another one is just shifting attention. So the concept of being able to, for instance, respond to this thing right now, but then also look and see that I have an important emergency take. That's a shift. In the child's situation, the child could be watching TV and mom calls, hey, can you do something? And the child has to shift their attention from TV to mom and then back. And that's a very important aspect of paying attention. There's many, many different aspects of attention. These, just a few that I listed right now, and many more are in our curriculum, and each one has its own lesson. For instance, the shifting attention one that I just talked about, we would have the child do something that is very highly, takes over their mind, like, for instance, TV in a lot of cases for kids, or computer or something. And then we would start with like, let's say our goal was to teach the child to be able to shift from the TV to the mom and back, right? And so then we would have the mom start by standing right in front of the child, perhaps even pause the TV and very loudly say the child's name. That would be step one, and as the child looked, then they would be rewarded, and then they could go back to watching TV. And gradually what you would do is you would reduce the loudness, the volume of mom, and you would also increase the distance of mom, so that actually what you are teaching the child now is to attend to the voice of mom, even if it's coming from the kitchen, and therefore know that they can attend to that and come back to this and nothing bad will happen. So it's kind of a shaping process, right? And so that's just one example. We have many, many lessons of how we focus on attention. And it's absolutely important. The better you are at paying attention and the more you know about all these different ways of attending, the better you do with everything you learn. That's just very important.
And that's all in the executive functions curriculum of skills, correct?
Yes, correct.
A whole bunch of different things about attention. It's kind of fascinating to read through it, I have to say.
It's a great section. It actually sometimes helps me also recognize stuff in my own typically developing teenagers. And it's funny because they talk about right now this generation, the millennials, and
Yes.
how they are multitaskers, right? Which really it means that they are able to attend to multiple stimuli at the same time. And that I find that to be true. In fact, sometimes I watch, generally in the evenings, if we're doing something, all my kids are around me and we're all like have the TV on in the background, and I'll look around and all my kids have either their MacBooks open and their phone and TV, or at least their phone and TV. So it's kind of interesting. And if you go even look at how they study nowadays, like they will put their friend on FaceTime and leave the phone so and their computer, and there's music. It's crazy.
Even here at the office, all the younger people have multiple screens for their
Oh,
computers.
yeah, everybody has screens,
and they're
yeah.
moving things to different screens, and that kind of, I go, what's happening?
I
What
know,
are you
it's
doing?
pretty amazing.
The frustrated researcher in me, though, I have this idea that I would love to see what the research has done comparing male to female in terms of being able to shift focus and attend to things.
Yeah.
Because I have this theory that women tend to be much more adept at it than men are.
I don't know. I think it has to do with the type of stimulus. So I think that when it comes to if one of the stimuli is a social or abstract one, then I agree with you.
Okay.
But if they're technical or concrete, then I think it's men. Like I look at my son, and he does certain things that I would never be able to do even with practice.
I think you're right. I never thought about it that way, but I think you're right. Kelby,
It's
in
the
terms
type
of
of-
how he runs the
Right.
board and is able to attend to 38 things at the same time, and I couldn't.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But my mother used to be able to knit, read a book, and watch television, and educate her children all in the same breath and not drop a stitch.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
could tell you what the plot of the book and the TV show were. It was
that's
weird.
amazing. Like I get so. I mean, honestly, Shannon, as time goes on, or as we age, I find myself more and more seeking solitude, right? As much as possible. Like and I absolutely adore my children, and they're on summer break right now, and I love to spend time with them. But there comes a time every evening where I honestly
Just wanna
sit there.
dial it down?
I sit there in my room, and we have 3 dogs, and the kids are home, and there's construction in my house, and all this sort of stuff, and I think to myself, like, I wonder if it's possible for me to get like a secret apartment or some place that I can go that no one can bother me,
Okay, but just mom to mom,
Yes.
I'm asking you this. When you get a period of time, like an hour by yourself, do you completely go, I need to go seek something out? Because I do. Instead of being like, ooh, I have time to myself, I go, well, what am I going to do now? And then I go find
No.
something to do. Okay.
I mean, I also find stuff to do, but I enjoy it so much. Like whether I'm just vegging in front of the TV, or I'm cooking, or I'm cleaning some section of the house, or I'm organizing photos, or I'm working, or whatever it is, I so enjoy solitude. Like I really love the only stimulus being the one I choose.
Yes.
You know,
no,
it's
there's
like
something to be said for that.
Yes, external stimuli are just way too much for me.
I'm sure a lot of moms out there can relate
Agreed.
too. We don't ever get 5 minutes to ourselves. Okay, so I want to move on to another question here. This is a very interesting question. More and more people writing in about sensory processing disorder. I wonder how you would tell if your child has autism or just sensory processing disorder. We definitely have sensory processing disorder, just don't know what else to look for other than sensory issues that might mean he is autistic as well.
Right. So the interesting thing is that, sensory processing disorder is kind of one of those names that we've made up that isn't in any book. Like it's not really a diagnostic criteria, it's just one of those things we talk about. And I think a lot of people have different levels of sensory processing disorder. It really is, keep in mind, first of all, that nothing is really a disorder unless it interferes with your level of daily functioning. Okay, so you can't really call it a sensory processing disorder unless it is so debilitating that it affects you in some way or another at work or with your family or so on. So we all have different sensory input abilities, right? Now, if it's it becomes, to some extent, it becomes a disorder if it causes so many problems that now start to affect other areas of life. For instance, this is a great example, I guess. If lights are so intrusive for you that it now starts to develop into agoraphobia, and you won't leave your house because that's the only area that you're comfortable with the lights in the house, and you will not go anywhere else because you're afraid of the lights that might be, and so it becomes debilitating, right? And now it really is a disorder. But it's not necessarily autism, right? It could be any other disorder which has now developed as a result of your sensory processing problems.
Right.
So now autism can also develop as a result of sensory processing problems, just like agoraphobia could, for instance. And it has its own set of symptoms, which really have nothing, one symptom in autism could potentially be sensory dysregulation, potentially. The main symptoms of autism are, some form of social delay, which could be caused by sensory. Now think about it. So let's say if the sensory input that really disturbs you is the sound of human conversation, then obviously you will avoid human conversation because it sounds like chatter in the background. It's driving you crazy and you just want to isolate yourself, right? So that could be a very direct connection between a sensory overload type process leading to a very autistic type behavior. But let's not forget that you really do need to meet specific criteria for autism. One of them being the delays in the social area, and then of course most individuals with autism, even though it's not in the diagnostic criteria right now, most individuals with autism really do have language delay, which could also be a result of sensory. I always used to say that you have sensory problems, it's going to lead to all this other. In fact, my lecture on what is autism talks about, I think, all of the symptoms of autism are preceded by some sensory problem. Because I think if you don't receive sensory input correctly, you don't learn correctly.
Right.
So
you're certainly not going to learn language.
Language or anything else. If you think about it, if visually you are very strong, let's say just in night vision, or you're not able to, here's one of the things I find with our kids, they have a hard time with binocularity, focusing both eyes on one object, with tracking. Okay, if you can't focus very well and you can't track very well, then looking at other people's eyes is a very, very difficult thing. And people are generally moving targets, so it's extremely hard to focus on a social being, on another being. And understanding all the nuances, like if you can't really understand all the things such as all these different facial expressions, then it becomes almost impossible for you to track that, understand it. It just becomes a weird thing that you can't understand. So in my opinion, sensory stuff does in a lot of, it is very possible that if you have all the symptoms of autism, most of them came from some sensory dysregulation. But the reverse is not true. Okay. You could have sensory processing issues that don't lead to autism. They're just there. They could lead to other disorders, or they could just be manageable.
But correct me if I'm wrong. What I get from this question, though, is that best course of action is to go get your child assessed for autism, because the truth of the matter is if you get an autism diagnosis, there's going to more than likely be a funding source that's going to help you, that's going to help with the sensory issues that you're having and the other autism related ones. So instead of debating it, go get assessed, or just start getting help for autism, but you wouldn't get the funding unless you got the diagnosis.
Right, you wouldn't. You can basically only get the funding for autism. It is very important to get, if you are thinking that your child potentially might have autism, I would start by just looking online at the symptoms that are listed for autism. If they sound similar to you, don't use the sensory issue as an excuse to avoid looking at autism. Let me just say it that way. Look at the symptoms of autism. If your child meets, in your mind, potentially could, be very honest with yourself as well. And don't be afraid. If they potentially could, then it's extremely important that you go get help. Now, when you go to get help, the majority of the time nowadays, once you get the diagnosis, obviously, you're going to get ABA, you're going to get behavioral help. My problem, Shannon, is that most behavioral interventionists do not believe in anything having to do with sensory. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem right now is that ABA really treats just behavior, just deals with behavior, but no one, and part of being a professional ABA person is to not worry about the cause or the what's inside the black box, as Skinner used to say, and more just deal with antecedents and consequences if you modify antecedents and consequences. Now, what I'm trying to get the ABA world to look at is that a lot of times the antecedents are sensory.
Yeah.
A lot of times the sensory antecedent is what leads to this behavior. So in order to fix it, you must fix the sensory input.
Okay.
So sometimes that's really important to look at, but it's hard. And as I said, like you have to find a behavior analyst who's open to doing also some work on sensory interventions. Honestly, I do a lot of stuff for my kids who don't improve, who are just extremely hyperactive, for instance, or who are extremely isolated and rigid in terms of sensory input. I put them on full sensory diets. There's like a lot of sensory stuff we will do in their program. I mean, some of my kids, unless you actually hold them and squeeze them every 10 minutes, they'd go wild and would never even sit down for an ABA program.
Yeah. I'm reminded on a daily basis how lucky we were that we had a card program.
We just have a kind of a different look at it. We're much more open to those types of things. It's a huge issue. The sensory issue is massive.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the first time, the DSM-5 is the only and first time ever diagnostic manual that mentions sensory dysregulation in autism. I believe it is the core to the majority of the issues that we experience with our kids.
Well, I invite you, if you're watching, to try to see if you can go to the centerforautism.com, centerforautism.com, go to locations tab, see if there's one near you. If there isn't, talk to somebody about workshop services, because I know that we got that in our ABA program, that therapists came in, on a regular basis, they burritoed my son, they took my couch cushions and wrapped them around him, squeezed him so that he had that moment and could come back to the table and learn the things that he needed to learn. I can't imagine how we would have gotten where we got if we hadn't had that.
Right.
Amazing. Okay, so probably our last question here. How do I help my son, 16, Aspie, to cope with new school? We just moved to Texas. He has no friends this summer and is expressing anxiety about the new school in the fall. It's hard.
That's a really tough one, yeah. And it's not something I can answer in a minute. Like, there's so many things that you need to prepare the child for. I suppose if he's Asperger's on 16, I would sit down and try to have him help you make a list of all the things that are concerning to him, and perhaps practice as much as you can. I know that with my children, familiarity helps reduce anxiety, so perhaps going to the school over the summer, making sure he's very comfortable with where his locker is, with his task planner, with opening and closing a lock, with knowing where all of his classrooms are. There was, I think, when my son entered 6th grade, my older daughter, went with him over the summer and actually practiced going from each class back to the locker and kind of taught him how it is in middle school, because before that they're not used to going to the locker and getting all their stuff and going to the next class. And so all of that stuff helps to help him write down, know how to write down things in his task planner the day they're given, not the day they're due, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of things like that that would help task planning. And then I would say, if you can help find getting access to some of the kids who are going to be in his classroom, and just perhaps introduce them before the school starts through the parents, if that's possible, or through other activities. Talk to the school and see if there are kids that are in certain clubs. There are certain clubs in school right now that are very good for our kids, for instance, robotics classes, groups and so on, or chess, or there's a lot of those types of activities that our kids excel at and love being part of. If you can make him part of something prior to school starting, that's probably the best thing to do. Ideally, if he can just connect with one other child, it's actually better than being part of a group. And, you know, all of our kids go through this. It's very, very difficult. You should, I think, if you're concerned, you might want to have a real conversation with people at school, resources at school who could be helpful for this.
And I just want to add to that, take the individual to see Inside Out. This film is pretty much about this exact thing.
Oh, wonderful!
And I think I really loved the film. My son loved the film. I want to encourage everybody to go see it. In fact, on Monday we'll be airing the newest episode of the first episode of On the Spectrum with Matt Asner, a new show here on the Autism Live network. And his first guest is Jonas Rivera, who is the producer of Inside Out.
That's awesome.
And not only is it a film that talks about what it's like when you're taken away from your friends and how do you make friends when you've moved, but it is a really important film in that it visually depicts perspective taking.
That's amazing.
You get to see all of the little characters in somebody's head that add to what they're thinking and how they view the world. I love that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And so I think it's going to change the way we're able to language perspective taking with our kids.
Yes.
I've already seen that conversation with my son, and it does it in a very visual, very funny way. Incredible.
And you know, I will definitely go see it now that I'm back. But you mentioned that, and it reminded me that many years ago we developed comic strips. You know, where we would, and that was the whole concept, was to draw the individual, another individual, and let's say yourself, and then what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what their actions are, and like. I think the more you make these things visual, the more it helps our children understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a friend who has 3 neurotypical boys, took them to see Inside Out, and she said the conversation afterwards was amazing. Then I took Jem to see it, and he did a little review on the show last Thursday that people can check out. We did it here on the show live, where he talked about what he learned from it.
That's awesome.
But go see it and then watch the show on Monday to see the producer talk about it, because it's a very exciting thing.
I might take my kids this week.
Do it. It's worth it. It's the summer hit. Okay, we're out of time, unfortunately, but thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much
when we get to talk to you. We're going to take a break now, go to the A word, and when we come back, it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson is here, and our very special guest, Jenny Palmietto, is going to be here from the Love and Autism Conference happening at the end of September. They're having a wedding. 2 individuals who are on the autism spectrum are going to get married. Jenny's going to be here with us to talk about the star-studded guest list and some other things that are going to be going on at this really important conference. But first, here is the A word.
Have fun.
Okay, bye. Just
I take her. I take. Oh.
He's starting to sit a little bit longer, and he gets the idea, okay, if I sit, get my stickers, then I can go. This is actually a 10 token board, but right now he's only on 5 right now, but eventually we'll move him up to 10. It's a good way for him to visually see, you know, that there is an end. Like, once I get all the board filled up with stickers, then I can leave.
Jessica does a preference assessment to see what Jack Riley wants to work for before she begins her first trial.
Okay, what do you want, pancakes or do you want bubbles?
Bubbles.
Say I.
I want pancakes.
Do you want pancakes or bubbles?
Pancakes.
Pancakes? Say, I want pancakes.
Want pancakes.
Okay, sounds good. What's your dad's name?
Mike.
Mike, good job. Here you go. Now put the J on.
Push
Put the J. J. Good job. Nice job. When's your birthday?
December 15th.
December 15th. Good job. How old are you?
2.
Nice. Can you show me the fingers?
2.
2. Good job. Here you go. What's your mom's name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Very good. Whoops. Here you go. Put another one on there. Where does the K go? Good job. What does it say? Jack. Say Riley. There you go. All done. Here you go. Say it's good. Okay, go play. See you later.
What?
Here, you gonna bring the tractor?
Elbows.
The pig, yeah, it is a pig.
Wait.
He's lining up the dinosaurs in a row.
Okay, buddy.
Lining up objects is associated with autism because it shows that the child doesn't know how to appropriately play with toys. This is why Jack Riley's therapists teach play skills, so you can learn how to learn. Playing is learning through imitation, and it also helps develop communication skills. This is why the behavior is redirected.
Let's make a bridge for the dinosaurs. Are they friends? Walk, let's walk. Let's walk. Yay, let's go play. What else can we do? Jack, what is this? It's
Is it this way? Is it this way?
It's a this way?
Is it this way?
Is it a bridge? Did you make a bridge? It's a bridge. Can the dinosaur walk on the bridge? Walk on the bridge?
Walk.
Can you make the dinosaur walk? You do it.
Dinosaur walk.
Jack Riley, do it. Make him walk. Walk. Here, slide down. Slide. Whee! Ready? I want to do it. Ready? Whee!
Sometimes lining up toys can be appropriate play. Jack Riley lines up his blocks to build a bridge. What makes lining up toys an indicator for autism is when the behavior is limited and is the only way the child interacts with the objects.
That's more creative, Jack. At clinic, Sabrina suggested to make a visual schedule because he's been having a hard time walking outside. So look, what's this first? There's Dad, there's you, there's Miss Shireen. You're holding hands. Like you're walking on the sidewalk, holding hands. And then when you get to the grass, you stop. You stop.
You stop.
Yep. Run on the
Grass.
Say run on the grass. Good job. The end. But yeah, so we were gonna show him like along the way as every step, like you walk out, you hold hand and emphasize holding hands.
Okay.
You guys walking the sidewalk holding hands, and then the next picture is you guys stopping in front of the grass,
Okay.
still holding hands.
Okay.
And then his reward is
you get to play.
You get to play on the grass. And he got the concept, early idea. Anyway, we'll see if put into play, will he get it? But I'm sure he'll get it.
He'll get it.
Yeah.
Having a destination was the biggest thing for him. Like knowing what the goal was.
I think before you say come here, and he thinks it's over. And yesterday he'd be playing, and Cheryl would say come here, and he would run down, and then she'd whisper, "You want to go to the grass?" And he just was.
Good.
I think it's all been about, now we have to go in every time we call him.
Every tantrum he has are really a lot of his bad behaviors because he doesn't know.
What do you have to do first?
Remember, what are you gonna do first? Though?
Hold what?
You want to do it or you want me to do it?
Hold what?
Since he sees your picture, maybe
Hold
it's today.
hands. Go hold hands with Dad, like the picture.
Good.
All right.
Remember like yesterday.
See, we still hold hands. No,
Can
we
you?
still hold hands. Stop.
Right?
We still hold hands.
Where do you guys want to
Right here, and then we made a mask.
Yeah, then we stop and make him ask.
Can you say, I want to play on the grass? Okay, go.
Yay! Go, go, go!
Have you hugged your tree today? You gonna kiss it too? Tree hugger and a tree.
Come here. Come here.
Oh my! Look at this.
Yay! Uh-oh, wet butt. Wet butt. Hey, do you want stairs or grass?
Grass.
Okay, stay with Mom. 10 steps. 10 steps. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Stay with me.
10 steps.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You want grass? Okay, go.
Using a visual schedule has helped Jack Riley a lot on outings because he can anticipate what will happen next. And unlike last week, there has been no aggression or biting. Whether it's a token board or a visual schedule, having items JR can see helps him a lot to know what's happening next and therefore be a lot less anxious.
What do you want? You want grass or do you want... Okay, go play. Yay!
Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. Thrilled to be here with you.
It's good to be here with you. It's a very interesting show with Doreen.
Yes.
Learned
Did you
a
catch
lot.
some of it?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
It's great to have her back.
Yes,
but
it
great
is.
for all of us to be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Took a little time off, but we're back. We've got a lot of stuff to cover today, including a great guest talking about a wonderful conference happening at the end of September.
With Love and Autism and a marriage.
Yes, they're going to have a wedding at the conference.
This is
Doesn't
so
get any more
cool.
lovey-dovey than that, right?
I know, this is like a big event. Remember when Luke and Laura got married on
Yes,
General Hospital?
I do.
Yeah.
It's at least the equivalent of that.
At least.
So very, very exciting. But we've got some in the news stuff to cover first.
Yes.
First story, this has been all over Facebook.
Right.
The teen who was beaten up by bullies.
And I'm going to let you talk about this because I'll be in tears, I think.
And well, I think
it has a hopeful ending, but
yes, what's remarkable about it is that he was beaten so badly, and of course the pictures on Facebook show how badly he's beaten, and I think any parent has a hard time taking a look at the pictures.
I have a hard time with this whole story.
Gavin Joseph is his name, and what he has done is said that he wants for his attackers to have to learn about autism and has asked for them to have to watch a 20-minute video that he has made about what it's like to be him, and that this is part of their punishment, that they have to learn about who he is and what his life is like.
And they have to do community service.
It's
working with people with disabilities.
It's truly amazing that he, in the spirit of like, as a parent, if that happened to my son, I would be about vengeance, and people would have to talk me off the ledge, right?
Yeah.
But it's amazing that he has had the strength to say, I think what's important here is that you need to have some education, that this is about ignorance. I had said to you before we went live that what I see, we've seen so many of these stories in the last year covered in the news, and the common thread in all of them that tears at my heart is that in each one of these instances, the kids went with this group of attackers or bullies or abusers, whatever they ended up being, because they thought they were their friends.
Right. I'm just going to recap a little bit because we didn't really give the
particulars.
Yes. Gavin Joseph, who is a teenager with Asperger's, I believe out of Illinois, right?
Yes.
And he was tricked by a group of boys into thinking that they wanted to be friends with him, but then they violently attacked him because they felt his condition makes him weird and creepy. And so instead of asking that they be punished, Gavin asked that they be educated about his life and his condition, and that's when he asked that they write an essay, watch the video, as you mentioned, referenced, and undertake community service, and it's been all over Facebook. But yes, he was lured into the situation, and the mother said, Gavin is fine. He has a mild concussion, a bruised esophagus, the tip of his nose fractured, and a hematoma in his eye, but nothing permanent. I would not call that fine. I would call that a very traumatic experience. And when are parents going to learn to educate their children about differences and learn to educate their children about compassion? I asked this, whoever these children were, their parents, to me, should be charged with something.
Absolutely, absolutely. But amazing that this team has.
We're very proud of Gavin Joseph.
Yes, amazing.
Sniffing test. This is an interesting thing. And you know what? As I was reading this, and if you want to give the main little story here, that a sniff test, right?
They're saying that it's 81% effective in diagnosing and detecting autism in children. 81%. You sniff something and they're able to diagnose autism.
And the reason is because children with autism don't seem to shy away from sniffing unpleasant things. And my son will sniff things and he has a lot of, Wyatt likes to sniff things and smell things. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Jem is on the opposite side of that he reacts bigger to smells.
Oh, really?
That, somebody else might smell something like, for instance, I love the smell of basil.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, fresh basil. I love to go to the farmer's market and get a bunch of basil and pinch a leaf and go, oh, it just smells divine to me. And he's like, oh, it's torture to him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, huge reaction.
Interesting.
So interesting. Okay. But the researchers examined 18 children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and the same number without the disorder. The subjects were exposed to 10 pleasant smells, such as shampoo, flowers, as well as 20 unpleasant smells, including rotten fish and sour milk. They found that children with ASD generated a typical adult-like sniff response, and that ASD children had a profoundly altered sniff response, sniffing equally regardless of odor valence. I don't know what that means. New word for the dictionary.
I think that's good, bad,
okay.
And everything.
Bad mojo. So 81% accurate in predicting autism. We'll look forward to hearing more about that. We'll have people sniffing.
Yes.
To be quicker.
Right.
Cheaper to get a diagnosis.
And then some good news out of Georgia.
Yes.
Finally, Ava's Law has been passed unanimously after a 7-year effort by the Georgia General Assembly, which is requiring private insurance companies to cover ABA for the first time in the state's history. It becomes the 41st state to require coverage, but I was interested in seeing that it's only before the age of 6.
A lot of the states have different requirements and different rules and age caps and dollar amount caps. The thing that's really interesting about that is that sometimes, depending upon, there are 2 laws in particular that can overturn that. One is the Mental Health Parity Act. So a state can say, oh, we won't give this over the age of 6 and we won't pay over $100,000. But if in that policy it says anywhere that if the child had been, for instance, in a car accident and had mental health that would have allowed for this same thing without an age cap and without a dollar amount, then their age cap and dollar amount is null and void.
Oh,
so
good.
make sure that you talk to the officials in your state about what the true is. You may look it up and the state goes, oh, we don't pay past that, but a lot of times that's not the case.
Okay.
And if there is something federally mandated, it goes over everything. So, but what is exciting about this is that it took effect last week. As of July 1st, those of you in Georgia, autism insurance is the law of the land. Check it out. Get yourself signed up for some good quality ABA.
Yes.
Chances are that it's going to be paid for at this point. And congratulations to everybody who worked
who
so hard
worked
on
so
Ava's
hard
law.
on that. Yeah.
7 years. That's why you stick it out.
And then a study that looks at a flip side of an issue we often talk about. We often talk about the stress and strain of autism on a marriage and the fact that many marriages dissolve because of that stress and strain. But there is actually now researchers at the University of Miami have come out. They have examined that couples that have actually had their bond strengthened because of autism spectrum disorder with one of their children.
And they looked at several different things to kind of predict, well, these are the characteristics of couples that stay together. So here are the characteristics. An individual's own strength predicted their own increased levels of relationship satisfaction. So if you are somebody who is a strong person, then you were more likely to think that your relationship was working well. Fathers and mothers did not differ in reporting partner support, optimism, or relation satisfaction. So it was important that both of them had to be on the same page. That if one parent was like, oh yeah, everything's going well, and the other one wasn't, then not so much. I mean, that follows, right? Mothers reported higher use of social and instrumental support coping than fathers. So if the mother was getting support, that was more likely that they were going to have strong couple.
Which I think is no surprise.
Right. Mothers reported greater levels of benefit finding compared to fathers, that they found the benefits, they tend to see the positive side of it, but that was a predictor of the couple working it out. More perceived partner support was highly related to partner satisfaction for mothers and fathers, so having the partner support for both of them. Greater satisfaction of one partner was related to greater satisfaction of the other. I do think my husband and I play this little game where one of us gets down and the other one is the champion, right? And then we'll reverse.
I think that's with every couple.
And try to pull each other up.
When I get into a funk, Reed tends to rise to the occasion. I'm like, why do I have to get into a funk before you step up?
And my thing always is I'm always afraid that if we're both in a funk together, that everything's going to slide into the ocean, right? And it's the thing that I'm most fearful of, is that both of us will slide, because one of us has to always be the person going, no, it's going to be okay. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure.
Well, and I know you guys have had extra stuff for years.
My husband's cancer struggle has been on top of that, which affects the autism.
Of course, and it affects everything.
Right. It's a very interesting, balance.
But there you guys are. Together and making it work and keeping a smile and making it look good even when it's not.
Yes, and I do tend to be an optimist. I was raised by a father who was an extreme optimist. And interesting other study that I read the other day, people that are chronically late, which is me, because I'm always chronically 10 minutes late, and I've just, I've tried to change it. They've actually found that there's nothing wrong with them. They tend to be more optimistic than other people because they're trying to fit so much in and they think they can make it on time. I sent that to a lot of my friends.
I'm going to crochet that on a pillow.
I'm going to send that link to you. It's a study they did.
You know that I'm chronically not on time.
Yes, I know.
You and I both.
So, I've made an effort to improve that. But if you're chronically late, it's not a bad thing. You're an optimist. You're a glass half full, not glass half empty, because you're trying to fit it all in.
I like that. And then our last in the news story, I'm sure you guys have been keeping track of some of the things that here in the state of California, a new law has been signed into effect, SB 277, and it is the law that says that children who are going to school need to be vaccinated. There are a bunch of codicils to it that we listed last week, but there's been a firestorm of reaction. A lot of it happening on Twitter. In particular this week, Jim Carrey found himself caught up in this. He stepped into it, we'll say that. He put out some tweets that were a little incendiary.
Yes.
And apparently included at one point a picture of a boy who his picture was online.
Yeah, Alex Eccles, who has severe autism.
And he's 14 years old, and we understand that what happened as a result of this, he has a particular type of genetic disorder that creates tumors that form in the body, primarily in the brain, eyes, heart, kidney, and lungs. It can be comorbid with autism. It is known as TSC, and
I'd never heard of it.
I had never heard of it either, and that's what a lot of people had never heard of it. And because Jim Carrey posted the picture of him, it created a lot of attention around this particular disorder, which was greatly appreciated. However, Jim Carrey did not ask for permission to post the boy's picture. His parents were not thrilled about it and asked that he take the photo down. And a lot of the people in the community said that Jim Carrey should apologize, which he very publicly did on Twitter, which I think is admirable when you
I
do
do too.
something that, you know, and I know a lot of us take pictures on the internet and do things, and we should think about it before we do it. And but Jim Carrey immediately apologized. He said, "I'd like to apologize to the Eccles family and others for posting a pic of their kids without permission. I didn't mean to cause them any distress." And the mother was quoted as saying, "It was so nice to get something from Jim Carrey." You know, I think that was greatly appreciated. My reaction to it, I just want to say publicly, and I'll tweet this to Jim Carrey, if he wants a picture of a kid with autism, I'll be happy to give him permission to use my son's picture.
And I'm happy for you to use Wyatt's picture as well, Jim Carrey, if you'd like to use, you know, if you need a poster child, we'll do it.
Yeah, I got a picture for Jim Carrey, not for anybody else. I like Jim Carrey. In any case, okay, we've got a great...
I'd like Wyatt and Jim to meet Jim Carrey, because I bet they'd have a ball with him.
Oh my gosh.
It was no shock to me that when he and Jenny McCarthy were together, that he loved Evan and got along with him so well, Jenny's son. Because can't you just imagine Jim Carrey with a child on the spectrum? How fun would that be? How much fun do you think he had?
And when you hear about his upbringing, there were a lot of kids in a home and not money, not even saying a lot of money. There was no money, and they entertained themselves. And he's just one of those goofy, off the wall that probably didn't fit in with the typical kids to begin with, right? He just has a different sense of fun, a different sense of how the world moves. So kind of love Jim Carrey. So
I second that.
All right. Okay. So great guest that we have coming up. Jenny Palmietto is going to be with us from the Love and Autism Conference that's coming up at the end of September. They have a lot of different things at this conference, but this year they're having a wedding. Can we get an awe? So we're going to talk to Jenny about what's happening with that, why there's a Love and Autism Conference, and get some details, some insider details on the wedding. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hey, welcome back to Autism Live. We heard you. Everybody wants
macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, but we're going to make it allergy-free. But here's what's the crazy part of this macaroni and cheese. It's actually healthy.
And it tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes really good.
That's the most important part.
So we're going to start. We got our water boiling. There's so many variations on the pasta. We're using today a corn pasta. We can verify with the manufacturer that we have a GMO-free product. So let's go ahead and put that in there.
Ooh,
and if you don't mind, stir that up for me, my friend.
Now it's sticking a little bit to the bottom.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
We maybe add a little more high heat oil and spread that around again. One thing you gotta know about gluten-free pasta, if you overcook this, it becomes mush. Let's move this guy over to the other burner so you can see what I'm doing. And now we're gonna start with the old macaroni and cheese sauce. What's great is there's a lot of choices for, different soups. And the way that I look at soups, and again, please follow the recipe on your screen right now. I don't like to measure very often. But what I like to use is a creamy butternut squash soup. So this soup is great because it adds a lot of flavor to the dish, but also gives people another serving of vegetables. With kids, we don't want to over season. Maybe with the adults, we can season some for the kids first, pull it out, serve them, and then add a little more, garlic powder or onion powder or other types of things into your dish. So the next most important thing on this recipe is we're going to add in a thickener and the faux cheese. Now some people like their sauce really thick, so you just add in more cornstarch or more arrowroot, so that's not a big deal. How's that doing? You think it's ready?
I think it's done.
Okay, so why don't we switch? I'll take that, you do that.
Okay.
And I'm going to strain this bad boy here. Here, let me turn that off.
Okay.
Or we're going to cause trouble again.
Trouble in Lisa's kitchen.
No,
that's another show.
Don't, yeah, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get this all strained. It's a good consistency. So I'm going to check to make sure our pasta is cooked. So really you just want to make sure, just like any pasta, it's a little bit squeezy, a little bit. Nice. Dude, good job.
Hey. We're good. Looks yummy.
So even though the cheese is not totally melted, it's okay, don't panic. What's important is that you're gonna love this recipe once you eat it. What I enjoy most about this recipe is that it smells good, but this stuff is amazing. So if you don't mind, I'm going to serve you some up, and you can maybe blow a little bit on it so you don't burn your mouth. Sorry, I'm once a mom, always a mom.
Just like wait till I get.
I know, right?
God, I can't wait. I'm excited.
So I'm going to give a shot of this too, but
oh my gosh, that is so good.
This is the ultimate comfort food. So
oh, it's so
isn't
good.
it good?
And I'm not just saying that. It is really good. It literally tastes like something our kids would really like, and that sweetness is really, really, really good.
So the bonus for us is that when we're serving this to our kids, they're actually getting a full serving of vegetables in this. So instead of just eating a bunch of carbs and worthless calories, you're actually getting some good stuff in this. And we'll be back next time. I hope you join us again here on Autism Live. We're really loving the feedback, and if you have additional feedback, here's how you get it to us. You can send it to us via email at autismlive@gmail.com. On Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. And also there's thousands of recipes waiting for you to discover them with pictures and different things on the TACA website. So you can hit TACA on the web, tacanow.org, and we'll be back. Hopefully we'll get to do this again.
I had so much fun.
Maybe we'll have a little wine, but you got to join us next time. We'll look forward to seeing you then.
Bye guys, we're gonna keep eating.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
And we're back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And as promised, joining us now is Jenny Palmiato. Jenny is the clinical director and owner of the Family Guidance and Therapy Center of Southern California. She is also the creator and host of Love and Autism, a conference at Heart, which we're going to be getting into in a minute. The second one is going to be September 26th and 27th this year. And Jenny is the founder of the nonprofit One Day Tomorrow. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, it's good to have you here. And you are also you're a marriage and family counselor, are you not?
I am.
Okay, great. And Jenny, you took an interest in helping individuals and their families on the spectrum create loving and connected relationships that kind of led to this conference. How did you develop that interest? Where did that come from?
So, it's interesting. It started with a boy, and it kind of comes full circle. One of my college crushes got a job working at an autism agency, and I thought, geez, I'd like to work with him. So I went out to get the job. He didn't take it, but I found my real love.
Isn't that remarkable?
I've stayed, working with families and children on the spectrum for the last 15 or so years.
And you're an advocate for a change in regard to misconceptions. What are some of those misconceptions?
The damaging misconceptions are aplenty, but the ones that I really feel strongly about are those that suggest that people on the spectrum don't want and need love, and even more so that they're maybe incapable of love, and that is just very untrue. And people want and need and can have healthy and loving relationships across the lifespan, spectrum or not.
And so this is the second of these wonderful conferences that you're doing. Again, it's happening September 26th and 27th. And
in what area?
This is in San Diego, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we know we're going to talk about the wedding in just a minute. We've been talking a lot about that, but we don't want people to think that it's just a wedding. This is a conference. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the other things that are going on at the conference?
Yeah, so we have some great speakers that I'm extremely excited for. Dr. Stephen Shore will be joining us. He's a global ambassador, and now I consider him a dear friend. And he'll be speaking. David Finch, author of Journal of Best Practices, is going to also be joining us, and I think he's just going to have a great lighthearted and funny way of presenting his own views of love and autism. David Hamrick and Lindsay Neviker of the Tribeca Film Festival, Autism in Love, are joining us again. Last year, they were the people, after they spoke, the whole crowd was just in tears. And I walked out, hugged them, and said, I have to have you back. And they said, we'd love to be back. And who knows, they may be married themselves. They are an engaged couple, and we may get some new delightful news on that front.
We did not know that. How very exciting for them.
Yes.
Jenny, where would people go if they want to register for the conference and if they want to learn more?
Yeah, our website is loveandautism.com, and is spelled out. And you can find out more about the speakers. We've got we're vendored with Regional Center, which means that anyone in California can get some sort of stipend to go, and we can work with you to work with your case manager to help you figure that part out. And yeah, we've got both the wedding and the conference. So the conference is 12 and above. We actually pulled the ages down based on demand. Last year we had 15 and above, and people were like, you know what, my 12-year-old needs to be here. My 13-year-old needs to be here. And so it's 12 and above. We're planning it as an autism-friendly event, which means that we'll have a special room that we call the quiet room, and a special room that you can watch the conference, basically Skyped in, and also a loud room where if you need to be moving and chatting, and you can go there, or you could join us in the main conference hall. So yeah, we have lots of exciting things. We also have a mingle event that I'm particularly looking forward to, which is a lunchtime gathering on Sunday, and we're doing it kind of for the bride and groom. Many of the speakers will be joining us, and it's basically a time to mingle and talk and join the speakers for lunch in a really kind of intimate setting. We're doing kind of a picnic lunch, barbecue style, because the bride and groom are cowboys at heart.
Wonderful. So we should take a short break.
We'll get back and talk more about the wedding.
Yeah, but tell us one more time, what is the website?
It's loveandautism.com.
Okay, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to go in depth about this wedding, how this came about, and what it's like to be planning a wedding for people that you previously did not know, but it's very exciting. So stick with us. More of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages. What do you think about ABA treatment?
ABA is the one that's documented, but I think that's what I think is important with little kids, the intensity. If this kid's 2, 3, and 4 years old, he needs 20 or 30 hours a week of intensive early intervention, working one-to-one with an effective teacher. And an effective teacher knows kind of how just hard to push, because you got to stretch these kids. If you don't stretch them somewhere, they don't advance. You push on them too hard, they go into sensory shutdown. The worst thing you could do with an autistic 2-year-old is to do nothing with them and just let them sit there rocking. And when I was very young at 2 and a half, ABA type things were used on me, but it wasn't called ABA in that day. My teacher would hold up a cup and she'd speak slowly. You got to speak slowly to these kids because there's auditory processing problems. She'd say cup, and then I'd say cup, and the teacher would praise me. That's very similar to ABA. ABA in its original form is a little kids program. The whole idea is you're trying to get language jump started. And I like the more flexible kinds of ABA. You got different levels of kids. I had ABA type stuff when I was young, but then after I pulled out of it, I didn't have to go through elaborate things of getting ready for school. I still have this habit now today. I lay my clothes out the night before that I'm going to wear, so when I'm sleepy I can just get them on. And then you have other individuals where they've got to do very structured, breaking down the task analysis. This is where after you get out of the little kids and you get them talking, they kind of diverge into different levels of functioning. And a type of ABA program that'd be suitable for a very severe kid would not be something you'd want to do with a mild Asperger kid, because you're going to bore them to death and make them hate school.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We are so excited because with us via Skype we have Jenny Palmiato, and she is the mastermind behind a really wonderful, one-of-a-kind conference, the Love and Autism Conference. It's a conference with a heart. a conference at Heart, excuse me. And one of the amazing things they're having at their second annual conference, they're having a wedding. So Jenny, talk to us a little bit about how did this come about? Did you find this couple or did they find you? What happened?
He found us. So Dr. Stephen Shore is very good friends with the bride and groom, and he said, I have a couple that you need to talk to that needs to be on this roster. And I said, well, have them send me an email. And so the subject of the email was, we have an epic romance. And this was in maybe September or October of last year. And so we signed Anita up as one of the speakers, and I was super excited for them. And then in December, she called me super excited and said, we just got engaged. And then there was a pause, and she said, I want to have my wedding at your conference. And I thought, well, that's a idea. Let's talk this further. It's a conference. And so when she actually gave me her 3 reasons, or what came to be 3 reasons, she just said, I really want the world to know that our love is no better or different than anybody else's love. It's just love. And then she said, I want every person on the spectrum to at least be invited to one wedding. And what I've realized since then in my getting to know the bride and groom is that both of them have not been invited to a wedding, and that this will be their first wedding. And so they really want others to experience the love and hopefulness that a wedding celebration brings. And the third reason she said is, people think that people on the spectrum don't have emotions. I'm going to cry on my wedding day. People need to see this. And by the end of that conversation, I said, yes, let's plan a wedding. And so at first it was just kind of maybe a simple little maybe ceremony at the end of the day. And now it's a very legit wedding, and we came up with this fabulous idea of including all kinds of talented and passionate people on the spectrum. And so from start to finish, everybody involved will identify on the spectrum and be part of this huge celebration of love.
You even have a harpist on the spectrum.
Yes, and flower girls and ring
boys,
bearers.
Yeah. Has Jem been to a wedding?
Jem actually has been in a wedding because when his therapist, Peter Farrig, got married, he got to be the ring bearer.
Wonderful. Is that his only wedding that he's...
No, that's like his 5th wedding.
Oh, Wyatt's never been to a wedding.
Really?
Never
well,
been
see,
to
I
one.
drag my kid to everything and make people, I say to people, if he's not coming, I'm not coming.
Well, I would take Wyatt to weddings, but I can't even, I'm trying to think of weddings I haven't been that many lately.
We had a series of them a couple of years ago that, and so Jem was on the wedding circuit.
Okay.
We had 3. We had 3 in one year. He had to get the whole tuxedo and the whole 9 yards.
I'd love for Wyatt to go to a wedding.
Jem thinks weddings are a great thing. He wants to know this summer why we don't have any weddings to go to. So
this wedding will be super fun. Alex Plank is going to DJ the event, as well as stand up for the groom as his groomsman. And that was really, Alex is a great guy, and he just said, hey, have you hired music yet? I'm going to do it.
And Jem loves Alex. Has Wyatt gotten to meet Alex?
No, he hasn't yet.
Jem thinks that the sun rises and sets in Alex because he's just the coolest guy ever.
He is cool.
Yeah.
And Michael Tollison, who we just had on the show last week, who's going to do a live painting. It's just so many wonderful, as you said, Dr. Stephen Shore officiating. So it's just a wonderful thing.
The bride and groom, and he decided to get his officiant license for the day and become a wedding officiant for this specific occasion.
And we should mention too that the toast for the couple is being given by
Temple Grandin.
Dr. Temple Grandin.
Okay, so you've got some heavy hitters here.
Yes.
We have an A-list.
We do.
A-list, A for autism. So Temple is going to be doing a pre-recorded toast. And she just reached out to Anita and said that this wedding is really important to the community because it means that people on the spectrum can have positive relationships. And so she and Anita arranged for this to happen. She already has an event that she's speaking at, but we found a way to include her. And it's going to be just fabulous. It will be really, really fun. Well, so Michael Tolson's going to be painting in the morning sometime, and then the bride and groom are going to get married underneath or in front of his huge masterpiece.
What time are you planning for the wedding ceremony to actually happen?
The wedding should start at 4:30
on Saturday. Okay.
Yes, on
All right.
Saturday.
Okay, and once again, where people can get information about this, because I think you're going to have a lot of interest.
Oh, I hope so. It really is a message that we need to share.
We agree.
It's so damaging that people don't believe this about people on the spectrum. So loveandautism.com.
Loveandautism.com. Okay, we encourage everybody to attend this. It's going to be a really exciting event, and we, hats off to you, Jenny, for developing this conference, for coming up with, developing the idea, making it happen. It just sounds like it's going to be magical.
And the wedding is all ages, and so the conference and wedding, if you attend the conference, you obviously get to attend the wedding, but if you'd just like to come for the wedding portion and join us for that celebration, we have a special ticketed price for that.
Wonderful. So for all those people who have never been able to take their child to a wedding, this might be the one to take your child to. Everybody's going to understand, and you're going to be at an amazing event that will fill you with all kinds of hope. But I really want to encourage people to be there for the conference as well. Really exciting things that you have going on, Jenny. And we are hopeful. The bride has reached out to us. We're hopeful to have the bride, possibly the groom, on the show as well as the days get closer to the actual wedding. But Jenny, we thank you for being with us. Thank you for this brilliant, wonderful idea.
Well, hope to see you guys down in San Diego with Wyatt and Jem and the whole family. This is going to be a historic event.
Absolutely. All right, you take care.
Thank you, Jenny. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Really wonderful.
It's so fun. I love this idea.
Weddings are so much fun. I love them.
Yeah, I think we were invited to, actually it was a nighttime wedding, and then we knew the reception was going on and on and on, and we decided not to take Wyatt, but I would like to take him. And we actually have a funeral coming up. Have you ever taken Jem to? Besides a family funeral, of course, Wyatt has been to my parents' funerals.
Yes. Yeah, Jem went to my mother's, but no, he's not been to a funeral.
Yeah, I'm wondering about whether I should take Wyatt to this funeral, kind of talk to him about those issues. It's interesting because, I think some things that, well, maybe with typical children, you wouldn't necessarily take them to a funeral of a dear friend. A woman in our church passed away that was a dear friend. And sometimes I think with, typical 13-year-olds, you might not take them to a funeral because it's kind of tough.
I remember my mother taking me to a wake when I was 16 years old, and it was like the thing that I remember the most about my mom, because I didn't want to go, and she said, "Oh no, you need to go to this because I need to make sure that you know how to do this." My mother walked into the wake, and it was somebody who died suddenly. And so everybody was a mess. My mother walked in, worked the whole line, kept it all positive, hugged everyone, had her 10 phrases that she said as she hugged everybody, was out in less than 10 minutes and in the car, and then that's when she had her cry. And she said to me, and that's how you do that. You don't go and make it about you.
Yes.
You go and you hug everyone and
advice.
Be positive, and then you have your meltdown in the car, and you don't stay there forever. You get in, you get out, and I've always remembered that. It was one of the best lessons my mother ever gave me. Amazing. My mother was an amazing woman, but I don't think Jem. We'll see at 16. I think I was ready for it at 16, but I kind of think that might take Jem a little bit later.
Leaving Wyatt at home for this coming up.
All right. But maybe the wedding. He likes to dance, doesn't he?
He loves to dance.
Jem loves to dance.
Yeah.
All right. If there's if Alex is being the DJ, we know there'll be good music.
It's going to be great music.
All right. See us there at the wedding on September 26th and 27th is the conference. We're going to take a break, and then Nancy and I are going to come back and talk a little bit about Inside Out. So stick with us. What do you think about the prevalence of autism, the rising number of prevalence, and what are your thoughts on what this world is going to be like with so many individuals on the autism spectrum?
I think a lot of the increase is just increased detection on the milder spectrum, but I think there is some severe autism that's increased. Older parents having children would be one factor. Lack of vitamins, like B vitamins prior to pregnancy, chemical insults, taking prescription drugs in the first trimester. There's a whole lot of little insults like this that can interact with susceptible genetics. I work in a technical field, and there's mild autism and Asperger's and dyslexics all over it. One of the best millwrights in the feedlot industry is severe dyslexic. He's one of the best millwrights that there is, and that builds complicated feed mills. And the thing that worries me is they've taken so many of the hands-on classes out of the school: cooking, sewing, woodworking, metalworking, auto shop. There's a lot of kids that are kind of different. They make great mechanics, and we have a shortage of mechanics right now. We have a shortage of engineers. I'm getting concerned that there's some smart kids that are kind of different, kind of getting a handicap label. Now, where the diagnosis really makes a difference is later on in life with their relationships. And the wife is wondering why the husband is not very demonstrative and, you know, not very lovey-dovey and emotional. And this is where getting a diagnosis can really help their marriage, because then the wife understands. See, that's where that kind of, when it comes to relationships, that's where the diagnosis can really, really make a difference. I think one of the problems today is sort of a more social society today. You know, the kid that was a little bit not too social before, he'd be out there in the auto mechanic shop, getting along great with the shop teacher, and they got rid of that kind of stuff. You see, I'm in a weird situation where I walk back and forth between the autism world and the sort of metalworking and cattle working kind of world. And, oh, there's farmers that I know that are on the spectrum, and they're doing great in farming.
So maybe it's not that these kids actually do have a diagnosis then, but maybe the prevalence was there before?
Well, I think on the mild end, I think the prevalence is probably there. But I think there's severe autism that has increased. There's way too much sugar in the diet. We also have an omega-3 deficient diet in this country. We're not getting enough omega-3s. I think let's go back to the alternative things: fish oil supplements, some of the B vitamins, and lots of exercise. Kids are eating way too much sugar, and kids are not just getting enough activity. You know, mother used to say to me, go outside and run the energy out of you. Well, and kids aren't doing that today, so that makes the ADHD worse.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And I promised that Nancy and I were going to talk a little bit about Inside Out.
Yeah, because you've got an exciting guest coming up.
Yeah, we have a new segment. You know, it all started with you, Miss Nancy.
It did?
It all started with
How did
you.
that start?
Yeah, because we were doing Autism Live and sort of chugging along, and an event happened. We were probably 6 months into the show. An event happened where a child went missing, and you contacted us and said, can I come on and talk about this? I've been doing it on some of the local news outlets. Can I come on and talk about this? So we started talking about this missing child, you and I together. We had such a good time, had such rapport, that you said you'd like to come back and do an hour every week, and that we, you know, in that hour that you could talk about some of the things that Autism Care and Treatment today are doing. And it was really important to us that we wanted to have time to talk about a super important charity. And we thought it was fun that you and I had this wonderful chemistry, which our viewers have said. Some of you call us the Lucy and Ethel.
We played Lucy and Ethel, as well as the two queens. Now we're kind of getting famous for our Halloween shows. We're getting kind of well known for those, our costumes, and boy, do we have a doozy this
Nancy's been hard at work, and I'm just
have.
along for the ride.
No, you are not. You won up me last year.
No,
your
enough
queen.
With that. I took your idea.
Your Queen Elizabeth II was she outdid my Queen Elizabeth I.
No, not at all. But in any case, so eventually, because of that, we said, wow, this is so great, partnering with a charity organization with autism. And eventually we said, you know, we want to expand to more. It has taken us several years, but we now have expanded and have added 3 more 501c3s to our ever-expanding network because of what started with you.
And all of them are great friends of Act Today.
Yes, because you guys are the UN of autism.
We are. We love that.
So Taka, which is a wonderful, we show you a lot of different stuff. We'd already partnered in small ways with Lisa Ackerman, and she was doing the What's Left segment, the cooking segment, but now they're doing a regular monthly segment, talking with Taka, answering some of the questions that come in from Taka folks, talking about some of the biomedical things. We've partnered with the Autism Society of America, who is having their 50th anniversary conference right now in Denver. We're going to be talking with them tomorrow.
And you have a wonderful host for that show.
Yes, Stephanie Schaefer, who was the winner of The Apprentice, the last non-celebrity. Oh my gosh, she's a lawyer, but very smart cookie. So she does a segment, and
she's the whole package, beautiful, smart.
I will tell you, we'll give you a little preview that right now she's sitting in Denver interviewing Temple Grandin to be on the show. I'm going to give you more news about that. and we're going to split the interview between this month and next month,
Okay.
but and a whole host of other people. So that show is done with the Autism Society of America, and it's called The Future is Bright. And then the third piece to this is we're partnering with Autism Speaks, and Matt Asner is hosting a wonderful show called On the Spectrum with Matt Asner. That first episode will air on Monday morning. It will be noon Eastern Time. It will be 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And his very first guest is the producer of Inside Out, Jonas Rivera.
Great.
So he'll also have Nava Poskowitz on with him, his wonderful wife, talking about how they have found love, having a mixed blended family, 6 kids, 3 on the spectrum.
Their story is amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And I do hope that Matt will be having his dad on at some point. Who
Oh,
is,
of course.
of course, I love
Of
his
course,
father.
we love Ed. And Ed has a little crush on you.
Yeah,
Let's
so it's
be honest
mutual.
about
we
that.
like to flirt.
Yes, you like it when he says you got spunk, kid.
I make him say it to me.
And he loves saying it to you. Let's be honest about it. But in any case, but you and I both took our kids to see Inside Out.
Yeah.
Of course, this is Disney Pixar's most recent venture. It is the hit film of the summer. I can see already, if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it, but I can see already where there is going to be a sequel.
Of course.
And I got to be honest, I think I am even more excited to see the sequel because I hope that Disney Pixar has heard from the autism community about how great it is that they have done a visual representation of
Emotions,
perspective
right.
taking and emotions and what it looks like inside your head, and the fact that it looks different in somebody else's head. And I hope that they're going to go even further with that in the sequel.
Yeah.
I thought that this was lovely, but I can't wait to see where they go in the second one.
I agree. Yeah, Wyatt liked it. He there's some of the aspects of the film I think went a little over his head, but a lot of the core, messages of the movie did get to him. I mean, certainly he was out talking about the move that the young girl makes and how sad she is, and the crisis in her young life because of that, the loss of the friend, the colors of the emotions, the way the emotions, and because we do a lot with him when he gets upset to show the 5 faces, the 5, the red, the anger, and I say, well, where are you now? And I'll say, how did you get there? And when, and then, when were you here? When you were frustrated, and couldn't you have talked to me about that? And what were you frustrated about?
Yeah.
We had that happen the other night, and because his 2 best friends are going on to, he's moving into 8th grade. Oh, I can't believe it. Yeah. And his 2 best friends are going to 9th grade to the high school. So his girlfriend and his friend Bassam are leaving. And he told me, he was very angry, couldn't get to the bottom of it. I got out the chart and I said, where are you? And he said, I'm really, really mad. And I said, what got you there? And can you tell me why when you were here? And he said, I don't want, my friends to go to high school. I don't want to go back to middle school because they're going to be gone.
And my question to you is, how much behavior were you seeing before you were able to have the conversation and identify the emotion? Was there? I imagine you were seeing
it was
stuff
a build
going
up.
on.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that when we give our kids a visual representation of things, I think it really greases things for functional communication at whatever level. Because let's face it, our kids all communicate at different levels, different ways. But that visual representation of it, and I think that this film is just going to help cement that.
Yeah.
And give parents a way of saying, here's a visual. There's somebody here at the office that already has the little figurines on her desk, the little emotions. And I'm sure she's going to start referring to it and holding one up, going, "This is how I'm feeling right now." Right. But I think it's going to change the way we language things for perhaps an entire generation. And the fact that there's a visual with it, I think, is great. Could we possibly talk too much about emotions?
No,
especially with our kids.
With our kids, I was amazed at just how taking the face chart out and going into that conversation with him helped him process.
Yes.
It was astounding to me how quickly it brought him down. And then I said, but look at what it says you can do when you get to yellow and green. Before you get to red, what are some of the things you could do? He said, I can go to my room, I can breathe, I can talk to you.
So where did you get this chart that has those things that
I
says?
got it from his supervisor, his card supervisor.
All right, well, we might have to talk to her, see if we can make that
Alex,
available to
him.
everybody. Excuse me, Alex.
Yeah,
I
we
know
should
that.
talk about I can bring it in and show you.
Okay, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I think that'd be useful. Maybe we can share it with people.
Yeah.
In any case, we are out of time. I want to thank you. Want to thank our fabulous guest, Jenny Palmietto. I want to thank Dr. Grandpa Schaefer for being with us earlier. Want to let you know that tomorrow we are having Stephanie Schaefer live on the show from the Denver conference, the Autism Society of America. It's their 50th anniversary. She's with us. We may even have Temple Grandin tomorrow.
That
I
would be
don't
so
know.
exciting.
We're waiting to hear. But at some point we will have, Stephanie is interviewing her, but a lot of great guests from that conference tomorrow. And then we are also having Dorothea Lerman, who is a brilliant, brilliant doctor, who's going to be talking with us about how do we train the next generation of teachers to be able to deal with autism in the community. She's an expert at this. It's
That's
amazing.
great. They better get ready.
We're totally out of time, but
Tidal wave is
please,
coming.
until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. See you next week.
Bye-bye for now.